made a lost media video last Halloween, so why not turn this into another tradition that I can inevitably fail to uphold later on? First of all, some context. In the early 2010s, my 5-year-old self had a random but significant liking for the PG Tips tea advert mascot Monkey. This is all the context you'd need, really. You'll pick up the rest as we go. The year is either 2011 or 2012. I find myself in one of the bedrooms at my grandparents' house, firing up their Windows Vista powered computer. After some amount of time browsing the Cars 2 website in good old Internet Explorer 6 probably, I have the idea to look at the PG Tips one. While there, I stumble into this page, Playtime at PG Tips. It's not all work at PG Tips HQ, you know. Sometimes we like to kick back the kettle, let our tea leaves down and have a right old time. Join us for a game or two. Listed below were 3 games. A game of 2 continents. You've seen the film, now play the game, in association with Rainforest Alliance. This was a tie-in to the 2008 ad campaign PG Tips made to publicise their partnership with Rainforest Alliance. They made a 10-minute documentary-style video hosted by Monkey on the history of tea, a short 5-minute version of which was also shown in some cinemas. I was blissfully unaware of this at the time, and because of this, I never played it. I think it was because of some unreasonable and illogical concern that you have to buy a copy of a film to play it or something. Half-time games. Are you ready to take on the kitchen appliances? Boil, pour and score. This one was a tie into the Free Football Mug campaign from 2007, I think.
He found his way into the box. Now, can he hit the target? He can! Bring the cuppa home! Free Football Mug with special packs of PG Tips.
Which consisted of one online teabag into cup throwing game, Super Virtual Mugshot, and 6 others to play in real life. As far as I can remember, I only ever played this game once for some reason. And finally, Play with Earn. Meet Earn, the friendly fridge. Yes, it's as weird as it sounds. This one was a tie-in to the 2006... That's 2006? That was 2005, you fool. Ad campaign collaboration with Aardman and DreamWorks around the release of Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Yes, the same collaboration that brought us the Gromit mug. In fact, there it is on the loading screen. Now this is the one that I used to play what feels like all the time, but it probably just feels like that because it was so much more than the others. This game consisted of Earn, apparently standing for Extraordinarily Refreshing Neo Robotron, the sentient fridge who opened the game by saying, "I'm parched, can you make the perfect cuppa?" The game would then consist of Earn opening his door for you to choose from his contents. How can I say this that doesn't sound weird? The game would then consist of Earn opening his door for you to make choices from the things inside various points. For example, various methods of heating the water and various different types of milk, like an udder, which I remember once mistaking for a jellyfish when I was playing this, or chocolate milk. Doesn't it look like a pyramid? In the end, Earn would give you a score, and if it was good enough, you were promised something like a bonus video. From what's available on the Wayback Machine, we can learn that a were-rabbit-sized supply of tea and bundles of film goodies were up for grabs. I can see why I never won any of those prizes. With there also being a chance to make a tea-drinking buddy and watch exclusive Wallace and Gromit video clips. I never did well enough for that. By this time, the prizes would have long since been won anyway, as the promotion was from 2005 and I was playing in 2011 and 12. I don't even like tea anyway, what am I doing? On this note, the homepage also featured the coming soon Pictotron. It had already been 6 years, I don't think that ever materialised. And the Inspire-O-Matic, which I either never went on or just have no memory of. There was also a 4th game which wasn't on this page, Focus Pocus, which was featured on the homepage in 2007 as a tie-in to PG Tips' Theanine campaign.
At 1500 hours, we'll drink another PG Tips containing naturally occurring theanine.
Theanine helps me be relaxed, yet alert.
Indeed.
As I mentioned, unlike the others, this one wasn't later made available on the Playtime page, so I never played it. Fortunately, and also unlike the others, there exists at least some footage of this one online.
And now, from Crawley, it's the quiz of the week.
You've gotta be focused. You've gotta be fast. If you wanna be first, you don't wanna be lost. Focus, focus.
Now, please welcome your host, Monkey.
A game show, Monkey would play a short clip before asking you, the contestant, a question about what happened during it. By winning the game, you could be entered into a prize draw to win a TV. This search arguably began back in around 2014 when I found an app called Web Time Machine, the only evidence of the existence of which I can find being this page on appspy.com. It's not even in my iTunes purchase history anymore, let alone on the App Store. I don't know why they've scrubbed it so thoroughly. As you can see from the description, which is here exactly as I remember it, do you want to go to the past? With this app, it's real. Where will you go? To the... But warning, do not log in on sites on past, because it can cause space-time continuum. In response to which, my 8 or 9, depending on when in 2014 this was happening, self thought, wow, this means I can play the PG Tips games again, even though they needed Flash Player, and this is an iPad, so it doesn't support Flash Player. I did know those facts, but I guess I just figured I might as well try, or I just forgot about them. Anyway, needless to say that I had no joy with this, thanks to the Wayback Machine, which was of course the back end of this app, being blocked by Sky Broadband Shield for some reason. Fast forward 6 years, and as part of my efforts to archive as many things as humanly possible, I went about trying to source these games again. I knew it wouldn't be as simple as heading to the PG Tips website because ever since 2013, when it was largely redesigned, the games have been removed, so I headed straight to the Wayback Machine. All I could scrape together from sourcing the source code of the various pages on there was a lone, somewhat functional Flash file consisting of the non-functional loading screen of the Earn game. I did also find a Flash file for the other Flash-based and otherwise lost part of the website, the timeline showing the history of the company. With that said, it is only the timeline itself and none of its contents. You can gather how it previously worked based on this. So as that hadn't been particularly fruitful, I started searching elsewhere. What about the old site? PG Moment? Nothing. Third-party Flash game sites? Nothing. Blue Maximus Flashpoint? The Cars 2 games I was playing at the time are here, which is nice, but otherwise nothing. Another potential lead for the first game at least came in the form of the physical DVD releases of A Tale of Two Continents, the tie-in film from the game of course. These were included along with this tea towel in promotional packs of PG Tips, much like the football and grommet mugs, and I got hold of one. You see, mentioned on the back under bonus material is the Monkey game. Could the developers have gone to the effort of reworking it into a DVD compatible game? Or bundled it as an EXE maybe? Well, believe it or not, no, they didn't. It's listed in the menu as online game and then just tells you to go to the website. Credit where it's due though for actually designing custom menus. That's an art form that's been dying for as long as it's existed and I've always had a soft spot for it for some reason. Now I do have a vague recollection of potentially seeing some gameplay of this online some years ago. I can't find the video now, but what I saw consisted of being in some kind of shed or room which you could point and click around to different things in it. Like different clips and information and things. I don't know what else this could be besides this game, and I don't know why I didn't make the connection when I first saw this, and I was just a bit confused originally. The only sources I can find online proving that these games even existed, besides the archives of the PG website, are a post on tdog.com from 2008 and some entries on the Just PG Tips blog site. These Just PG Tips articles briefly talk about the games and provide the only images I know to exist of them, which I've been using throughout this video. This site features these articles. Fun with PG Tips, Two Continents game. This describes the game as you, the player, join your monkey on his journey with PG Tips from tea farms in Kenya across the ocean and back to England for a cup of tea with the Queen. Game is played using the spacebar and arrows at the same time, apparently. Fun with PG Tips half-time game. Play 6 PG Tips games at home. PG Tips half-time game is gone but you can find it here. And PG Tips earn game is gone but you can find it here. The blank game is gone but you can find it here posts explain that recently, PG Tips launched a new corporate website. It is a well-designed site that makes it easy to find the info you want, but they removed some of the games that were on the old site. But after some digging around, we found some of these games still accessible at another URL. You can find them at another PG Tips site. The link leads to the old site, PG Moment, which is dead. The Wayback Machine doesn't help here either. Another post, check out the new PG Tips website, explains that the one thing you will notice is the games that used to be on the website are gone. We even tried to find the games with the direct links we had, but they are gone. A far more bleak conclusion. But we're not done yet. Remember my grandparents' old computer from the start of this? Well, believe it or not, here it is. This is the Dell Optiplex 330 from 2007 with an Intel Core 2 something processor and 1GB of RAM. It did have 2, but one of the slots died, so now I have a nerdy ruler. It started its life in the office of someone called Joe, the son of a friend of my parents, I think. This is in fact the PC I did the majority of my script typing on back in 2017 and 18, and crucially, the only PC I ever played the PG Tips games on. I don't know why it was only this, I don't know why I never played them at my house, but this is it. Remember how I mentioned earlier that I'm determined to archive every home video I ever recorded? Well, as a part of this, earlier this year I bought a copy of ISO Buster, data recovery software that allowed me to pull footage from this unfinalized and corrupted DVD recorder burned disc. Another feature of this software is its ability to scan hard drives and other storage mediums for deleted files, and, as I assume there has to be some kind of local caching done by Flash Player, I figured there was no harm in scanning the entirety of this old PC's hard drive to see what it could find. Some number of days later and I had like 300,000 files to sift through. Some more days later and I'd got this down to around 71 flash files and still over 100,000 XML files, out of which I haven't been able to get anything because I just don't know how XML files work. But I know they can be needed for flash files to run, so I saved them as well. With this said, I'm by no means knowledgeable on how flash files work, so in case anyone else thinks they might be able to pull anything from these, I'll link them in the description. So what now? I could try and get into contact with someone? Who? It's not like I can see the credits for the game. I assume they were outsourced somewhere or another. The only people I know to have even known that these games even existed at all are the people behind Just PG Tips and T-Dog, and also William, who commented on the T-Dog post in 2009 to say, "I thought the PG Tips game was good, but I only earn."
You and I are not so different.
The only post on Reddit I can find about this is a response to a question on the Lost Media subreddit asking about what people personally hope to be found at some point. It reads, 3 flash games from the late 2000s and early 2010s from the PG Tips T website. Oddly specific, but nobody else online seems to acknowledge they existed apart from 2 short articles. And that was me, so we really are running out of luck here. Regardless, I sent messages to both of the sites and one to PG Tips themselves and began waiting. The next morning I was just about to leave the house when I got a reply from PG Tips themselves, suggesting that I get into contact with the Unilever Heritage Centre, who handle all archive requests. I do have to say here that their website seems very interesting, even if all I could find mentioned on it was an entry for the Tale of Two Continents movie. Strangely, this is said to contain 34 files, even though the entry only mentions the film and poster. Could this maybe also include the game files? Very likely not. The DVD's files alone clock in at 32 files, and I would expect the game to consist of at least more than 2. That afternoon I got a reply from T-Dog who, as I had expected, couldn't provide any further information and were clearly prepared for me to be incredibly angry in response, which I, of course, was. Meanwhile, I wrote up and sent off an email to the Unilever archives, in which I also asked about the timeline slider thing, and nothing. It was at this point that I first started considering giving up. I figured that, oh well, I tried, I guess this doesn't really matter anyway, so I might as well just make the video on my attempt so far and move on. Then I remembered Focus Pocus, which I'd known about thanks to coming across it during previous attempts to go back and see the main games. With the Wayback Machine, I was able to download the looped video promoting the game from the homepage, which in turn linked to the file Focus Pocus, presumably the game itself. As far as I can find though, this file isn't archived. Regardless, after going through all of the files under the /flash directory, none of which were anything new to me, I headed into the page source of the surviving "You Need Flash Player to Play This Game" page, which led me to a series of JavaScript files related to the game. And in one of these files was a name. As I don't want to run the risk of this person getting lots of messages about this after I release this video on the off chance it gets weirdly popular, for now we'll call him Travis. According to this file, on the 2nd of May 2006, Travis wrote this script while working for a company called AKQA. I had another lead, but there was a chance I could get an even better one. The first time round I'd only looked for SWF files in the source code of the pages, so I went back to the page source of the other games in search of JS files. Unfortunately, the only saved JavaScript files I could find were either uncredited or only credited to those more broadly involved with Flash integration rather than those who worked on the game specifically. Same with the history slider. Regardless, there was now someone else I could contact. If he worked on one game, there was a solid chance he, or at the very least the company, AKQA, had worked on the others as well. As for AKQA themselves, they're a digital design and communications agency who've been involved with all kinds of things, from making that Discord movie with Danny DeVito to designing the original Xbox 360 dashboard. Exactly the sort of thing I was hoping to find earlier when I mentioned the games potentially being outsourced. A brief search online for Travis brought me to a LinkedIn page which seemed to fit the bill, albeit with his place of work being Digitus UK, not AKQA. This said, Digitus appears to be a very similar company to AKQA, so this could easily just be a change of job sometime in the years since 2006. If this is the case, then the @akqa.com email listed in the JavaScript file would likely not yield any results. With this in mind, I headed back to LinkedIn and reluctantly signed up for a free trial of LinkedIn Premium so I could send Travis a message. There was also an option on AKQA's website to get into contact, so I tried my luck there as well. I don't like all this talking to people, I'm an introvert, so it better be worth it. It was at this point that I'd started going back through the script for this video and gathering various shots and footage to use in this, and while doing so, dug a bit deeper into the old PG Moments site. Here I was able to find an SWF containing the non-functional loading screen for the half-time games in exactly the same manner as the earned one I obtained earlier. But this was it, there was nothing else. Now, I'm by no means an expert in HTML and CSS and all the other aspects of how websites work. In fact, in our IT class at school, or as we call it, Chris, we have a running joke that we've wanted to do web design since year 10 and are still yet to get to it. However, I've reached the point at which I think I've scoured what archives of the sites there are as much as it's possible to. By all means, please prove me wrong here, but I don't know what else there is to do in this regard. In case someone with more knowledge than me can somehow get any more things working from the Flash and JavaScript files that we do have, I'll also throw a link to them in the description, or I'll add them to the file with the other ones. In a last-ditch effort to try and drum up some progress, I fired a Twitter DM off to Aardman and failed to find a way to contact DreamWorks, the co-creators of Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Of-It movie, but I have no confidence in this helping whatsoever.
That was today!
At this point, with no responses from Unilever or Travis, someone remind me to cancel LinkedIn Premium before they charge me £24 a month. Wait, £24 a month? Or AKQA, or even the first blog. With great reluctance and regret, it looks like I have to leave this here. Thank you, and good night.
Ah, dingus biscuits!